Hello folks, welcome to the canal Channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea what relay and fuse affects the fuel pump on a 91 to 94 Toyota Tercel. And this also applies for a 92 to 94 Toyota Paseo as well. We're going to run a couple scenarios to show you that this relay and this fuse can affect the fuel pump and actually the spark system. So if you're getting spark but no fuel, then something else can be affecting the fuel pump. But today is a basic troubleshooting, so you can get an idea how you can troubleshoot these components or this relay and this fuse to see if that's affecting your spark and your fuel or just your fuel pump. And with that said, let's jump right into it. So on your Tercel, if the car don't want to start but the engine turns, you might have to check this 15 amp fuse. That might be one of the problems, or this relay right here, this one or that 15 amp fuse. So 30 30 15, that check that fuse and see if it's good. And if that fuse is good, then try to check this or change this relay. And if your car still don't want to start and you put an inline tester and there's no spark, then you might have something with the distributor or your igniter too, this guy right here. So always start at the fuse. But if you think it's a fuse or a relay, is this 15 amp or this relay that can affect the spark and the fuel. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to try to start our car without a 15 amp but with a relay in there and see if there's any spark here on our inline spark tester. So now there was no spark without that fuse in there. So now we put it back and we're going to go check and see if there's spark or power going to the fuel pump with that fuse in there, and then we're going to pull it out and check again. So that way we know that if that feeds this system, the spark plus the fuel pump power. So we're going to check. So we're in the back of the car. We took our seat, our bottom seat out or flip it, and we disconnected the fuel pump, and we're going to check if there's power to this connector going into the fuel pump. So we're going to check blue cable is the power, and we're going to be looking for positive over here. So we already know this blue one has the power or the positive. So we're going to test it with the fuse on, and then we're going to disconnect the fuse and see if that affects this as well. So now, as you can see, we tried to turn on our car. There's power coming out of the outlet, but because we don't have the fuel pump connected to it, the car didn't want to start. So the power cut off because of the fuel pump has so much time after you shut the car off that they get signal. So we tried to start it up and there was power, but because of the fuse being in there, we wanted to test it if that affected the power coming to the fuel pump as well. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to pull the fuse out and try the same procedure again and see if that affects that performance on the fuel pump or the power to the fuel pump. So now we take out the fuse, 15 amp. And that 15 amp all it feeds is the EFI. Now we're going to try to start the car again, and we're going to see without a fuse if we get power into the same place. Now we're going to put the fuse back on and try it again. So now that we tried the 15 amp fuse that affected the spark and the fuel pump, we're gonna take this relay out and see if it affects the spark, and then see if it affects the fuel pump as well. So first we're gonna try with the relay in there, the fuse in there, and see what happens on the spark tester. Now we're gonna remove our relay and try to start the engine again and see what happens with the spark tester. This one, when it was in there, there was spark. When we took it out, there was no spark. The engine still rotated. So now we're going to verify if this relay affects the fuel pump as well. So now we're going to try with this relay on and see if there's power to the fuel pump. And then we'll take it out and see if there's no power or there's power to the fuel pump. So now we're starting our car and the engine doesn't turn on. And the relay is sending power to this fuel pump. The car is not turning on because eventually there's no fuel being pumped, but there's power being sent, so the fuel pump should work. So that relay affects if there's power or no power to the fuel pump. So now we take the relay out and see that light turns on again. We take it out, we lay it there, and we see that fuel pump is affected by this. So now we try to start our car, and there's no power to this because the relay is broken, or it's not in there. So that could be the problem. So we put the relay back on and we'll try again. So now we put our relay back on and we see if the fuel pump gets power back there again. We start our car and now there's power coming to the fuel pump. So that relay would affect the performance, or if the fuel pump will get power or not, even with a fuse as well. So we put everything back together. So now we plug in our plug to the fuel pump and we're gonna start our car and see if it starts. Now our engine is working as it should, and we're gonna pull this relay and see what happens to the engine when we pull that relay out of it. Don't try this. This is for us to show you what happens when these components go out and you could be driving as well. So now what we did is we pulled that relay and the engine shut down, and we push it back in. The engine has to be restarted. And now when that happens, we're gonna pull this fuse and see what happens to the system. So you could see those two affect the spark or the fuel pump. So that fuse and the relay can be the problem to no spark or no fuel. And well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on how to troubleshoot if the fuel pump is not responding or there's no fuel going into your engine. So you can troubleshoot this fuse and this relay, see if these components are causing this problem. But in the most case, if these components are causing this problem, then you won't have spark as well. So verify that you have spark, and then you go and check for power. And then if you're getting no power to the fuel pump, there's something else going on. But this was a basic troubleshooting, so that way you get to a place where you can start, and then you start troubleshooting your scenario. So this is for fuel and no spark on a 91 to 94 Toyota Tercel or 92 to 94 Toyota Paseo. And with that said, folks, for our friends who are watching the video and haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here en el canal del Chano Jose.